Star Wars Geek Girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes cry.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Star Wars Geek Girl podcast. I'm Zoe. Lizzy might be joining us a little bit later. She's cooking right now. But I'm here with a very special guest. I'm here with Marti Matulis. So
Zoe.
introduce yourself. Yes. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for asking.
Where would people know you from?
Well, they might. I don't. Would they know me from? The local grocery store is probably the only place they know me from. But yeah, definitely showed up in some strange makeups over the years. Most recently on Mandalorian and Skeleton Crew's Vane, the scurvy space pirate.
Yes.
And on Evil and Star Trek and like a bunch of stuff. If there's a tall, skinny guy in makeup, it's probably Doug Jones or me or a handful of other guys.
It's a nice little niche with a bunch
of guys.
It's
bizarre. Yeah. It's a tight knit group. We all commiserate over glue and sweat and yeah.
It's really fun. Yeah. So I have a couple of questions for you. So you were Vane, and you kind of mentioned it. You're in all that makeup because it is a pretty full coverage character. He's a has all the little spikes and every little scale kind of, I don't know if they're called scales, but that whole texture he has. So what was that makeup process like for you every day?
Vane is pretty easy. He only goes to kind of the chest and the shoulders and the face. Everything else is wardrobe. So he's pretty gentle on me as far as some makeups go, where they can be like a full body suit, or you're glued in, or you're stuffing yourself into something heavy or thick silicone. So he was just like clothes and a face.
Okay.
So he takes about 2 hours. We go in early in the morning, shaved. They start gluing on. First we put over the cowl, which is just around the face to the shoulders. That's all one piece. And then we glue on the face and blend that into the cowl. And I believe, if I'm remembering him correctly, because it's been over 2 years, so I think the chin piece was also separate, that we then tied into the sides of the face. And then I think there are either the 4 main or the 6 main spikes were additional. They were glued into place. And then just some painting, a little bit of touch up, some shading, some highlighting, some rouge, and then they send me off to wardrobe, and then off he goes.
Very cool. And I will say, I do like Vane's. His outfit is very
great.
All the pirate outfits were good, and I always really liked his. It was the perfect bit of space, bit of Star Wars, also what you would see on like Captain Hook's ship. So
I was really happy that they did that display. I think it was for D23. Is that what they call the event?
Oh yeah.
And they had the Vane and the Brutus. I mean, it made it look like Vane was the guy. He had his boot on the treasure chest. He was holding the credit. But it was really nice that you could get up close and see all of the detail, because that was the actual costume that I wore. And it's a thing of beauty. It's got layers upon layers.
Yeah, a lot of detail in that costume. And I guess, you mentioned like he was, in a lot of the marketing, like through Exit D23, saw him in some of the first trailers for the show.
Yeah, interesting.
Because you're the only pre-existing character to appear in Skeleton Crew. Every other character was original to the show. So you were kind of that bridge between Skeleton Crew and the rest of the galaxy. How did that feel to be that connective tissue?
It was good. It was a subtle bridge. It was like a little side road in the countryside kind of a bridge, just a little one lane
wooden bridge.
But it was there. Like, it made the connection for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was thrilled to be asked, and it just kind of came up through happenstance. Like, I was originally there for one day. They decided not to kill him because it was a cool makeup and the costume was amazing. And at one point they're like, yeah, we shouldn't lose this guy. So then because it wasn't already planned to be an existing character, they kind of had to find ways to fit him in. So when the boys brought the Skeleton Crew pitch to Jon Favreau, I think Favreau at the time was like, we could port some pirates over to your story. That'd fit great. And they're like, oh yeah, we got this one pirate. So it was kind of like it just kept going, and these little pebbles just kept skipping along. And I think, Zoe, if I'm I'm just coming up with this in my own mind in sheer speculative glory. That's probably why they paid some amount of attention to the fact that he was a little bit of connective tissue, but he wasn't that big of a character because he wasn't originally planned to be in this. It's just like it just kept happening. So they're like, oh yeah, we'll put him over there. Oh, we'll put him in there. So he shows up, he does a few things, and then I think he flies away. I didn't see him die. I don't know if you saw him die, but
I don't know. I think Vane, as far as I'm concerned, is alive and well, and maybe who knows where his story goes.
Here's to that. I'd like to see him show up in something else.
Yeah.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah. Do you think Vane, if Vane had his own spin-off show, like this is your spin-off show, what do you think Vane would be up to after Skeleton
Oh man,
Crew?
I've funny you'd ask. It's almost like I've been thinking of these thoughts, you know, like what else could he do? I want to see the comic book. I want to see all the things.
Yeah.
For complete absurdity, like if it were a comedy, I'd like to see Vane trying to run a coffee shop and just failing miserably at it. Like he cannot pull an espresso shot. He does not have the patience for it. He just starts breaking things and trying to fleece the customers. For a real deal show, boy, that's hard. I don't know. I mean, we haven't really explored. The pirates are just more like this entity of kind of badness. But if you were to get into Vane's backstory, I'm curious as anyone. Like, I'd like to see some layers to this boy and figure out, like, is there some good in him? Can he be swayed? Is he just an opportunist? Like, I don't know. Maybe he had a little bit of childhood trauma that he could transcend if he's given the right opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's really interesting because what we do see of him is that he's like captain shopping across the Mandalorian and Skeleton Crew because he has three captains. You have Gorian Shard, you have Silvo/Jod or whatever his real name is, and then you have Brutus as well. Do you have a favorite one of your three captains?
I mean, since I was kind of new to the crew there, I was playing it like I just showed up there with Jod and Brutus.
Mm-hmm.
Brutus is he's very emotional and he's not very well regulated. So I think he's too unpredictable to really rely on. I think Jod, you kind of know where he stands. He's always going for the big score. I think he's reasonable. I think if you were to align with anyone, it would certainly be Jod. Plus, he's got the really cool helmet, and he's not afraid to use it. So he doesn't have to just show his pretty face all the time. I think I could work with that guy.
Yeah. That helmet is really cool. That Jod helmet. It's
like a Bosk Halo mishmash.
Yeah.
Pirate little pirate hat as well. It's pretty cool.
Really fun.
The design in general, I think, on this show is just off the charts. Really, really lovely and kind of cohesive in the different areas too. It's really beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was spacey and it was sci-fi, but it was also very like fantasy and like these were pirates from space, but they looked like they could also be pirates on the seas, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Familiar design cues, even going all the way to the initially much maligned Star Wars suburbs.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was perfect. Like it was exactly right. It was exactly right. Like it's enough of a thread for our understanding to know, like, oh, these kids must be bored out of their minds. There's nothing going on. Yes, they have to have adventures. Yeah, they got to modify their bikes. Yeah, if a pirate ship shows up, they're going to jump on it. Like, it was a good move, I think.
Yeah, great way to use those design choices to help audiences see what you wanted them to know without having to tell them. Absolutely.
Right.
So I guess another question I have for you was, because you talked about this makeup process, you were, getting in your outfit. Did you, because Vane's kind of a mean, kind of grumpy guy. Did you ever do anything to try and like get into character as this mean old pirate, or?
Is he mean or is he just easily frustrated?
That's fair.
I think maybe he's, you get him in front of a couple of tankards of ale and he's probably a hoot. We've never really seen Vane kind of let down his hair. He's always been kind of on the prowl for just to try to get ahead. I think he's one of those guys, like he's certainly a capable pirate. He held his own against the Mandalorian. He's just not much of a people person. I think he doesn't do well in groups. I think that's why, even on the ship when I just forgot Jaleel's character's name. Gunter. When Gunter, I kind of like chuck him out of the way and like, because I see like my one opportunity is going away. So he's got those aspirations. Like he would like to be in charge if he didn't have to be in charge of any people. I think he would like everybody to just be a resource to push buttons so he can get some money.
Yeah.
If I were to
I think that's a great analysis of him, for sure. And so across the two shows, because you have Mandalorian, where you were in it as well, Skeleton Crew, was there a difference on working on those two shows? Because they're both Star Wars, but you have different people behind them in some senses, different settings. And was there a difference between the two?
I would say the sensibility of everyone involved, I would say childlike joy that all these grown-ups had playing in this world was all similar across the board. The biggest singular difference for me was just in actual geography, in that, the Mandalorian, we were outside, so I got to look around this really cool set that only went up about this high and then was just nothing. But it was lovely being outdoors. It was cooler weather. There was much less sweat, so that was kind of interesting. And then I got to work with the late great Carl Weathers for 2 days, and that was a career highlight and such a loss. I'm still a little gutted by that. But then Skeleton Crew, because we had the volume, I'm a tech freak. Like I want to know how everything works. So once we got into the volume, I just kept going over to the control panel and like asking them questions like, how does this work? And how many cameras are up in the rafters to know where the cameras are? Is that what that little array is on the camera? And they're like, yeah, and the 3D thing and the lens and the parallax. And I was in nerd heaven in that regard. But also then, because we were in Port Borgo and they would flip things around a little bit, it seemed like we were always in kind of a different spot. So that was fun. Hey, give me 2 seconds. There's a dog outside that white door.
Oh yeah, no problem. I get dogs.
Honking his dog, and I think he wants to. Hey, buddy, come on in.
Oh, hello.
That's Bodie. He'll join for a minute.
Hi, Bodie.
Here, bud. Oh yeah. Come here, Lunky. Oh, come here, buddy. There we go. That's my assistant.
Hi, Bodie.
He's a 8-month-old golden. English cream golden. That's what he is.
Oh wow, he's so cute.
He's a lovely.
Do you think Vane would have a dog? Do you think Vane's a dog person? We've established he's not a people person. Is he a dog person?
I don't think he's. I'm such a dog person. It pains me to say that he wouldn't be, but no, I don't think he could handle it. Dogs are too pure, and dogs see exactly what's going on. You can try your best to bullshit a dog, and it's never going to work. I don't think he would. Yeah. He would think that there was something wrong with them, and they would just look at him and just shake their dog heads at his ineptitude, his inability to connect. I don't know what kind of pet, if any pet, that might confer a little too much responsibility on him. He seems more like a cut and run kind of pirate.
Maybe like a pet rock sits on the ship, the little little console of the ship, keeps him company. Doesn't talk back.
If it didn't actually need anything from him and he could just talk to it, that might work. That might be
helpful.
A little Tamagotchi or something.
Yeah. And then you were talking about the volume and the sets. Is there do you feel like as an actor, do you feel like it affects your performance very much, like how you are acting and if it's in a set versus something like the volume?
About the same, because it fills your peripheral vision. So
okay.
When we were doing the dogfight scene for episode 5, when they brought me into that, there was green screen or blue screen around, and when we did the drop ship stuff for the last episode of Skeleton Crew, that's a lot harder because you just got nothing. You're completely up to your own imagination, but you don't have anything to lock onto. So geography is difficult, up and down is difficult, like remembering what's actually supposed to be out there. The unfortunate part of that is because as an actor, ideally, you want to use everything in you to just relate to the person in front of you or the people in front of you. and not continually try to also remember, like, where am I? What am I looking at? What's around me? Should I look up? Should I look down? Like, it creates an extra needless work. So sometimes it's necessary, but I think something like the volume really, really solves that problem because it's all there. Everything's there.
Yeah.
And if you're not really paying attention to it, it's really easy just to walk right up and smack into it because it just everything, the color tone of it, everything blends into all of the set pieces that they put on the floor. It's really cool. Yeah, I loved being on that. I didn't want to leave. I wouldn't go back to my room. I would just hang out. When they didn't need me, I wouldn't go anywhere. I just hover.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so you filmed a lot, all these different scenes, volume, set, green screen. Did you have any particular scenes that you were in that were your favorites to film? And then if they're different, do you have any that were your favorites to watch afterwards when the show came out?
You cut out a little bit. Did you say episode or
sorry.
scene?
Favorite scene. Any favorite scenes to film and any favorite scenes to watch if they're different?
Well, definitely that first episode of Mandalorian when he showed up, like having that shootout scene with Grief Karga was total career highlight. We had 2 days to do that, and it was tons of fun. Classic Old West shootouts, or there's a lot going on, and it's fun to play the kind of power dynamics. Who's looking at who's about to move? Like that was great. For Skeleton Crew, probably the second part of the Borgo after the kids come up and try to pay for their lunch with the credit, and then we all chase them out into the main hangar area and kind of gang up around them, and SM goes down. That was all tons of fun because the set was just packed full of people, so many moving parts. The kids were all there. I think that was the only time I get to work with all 4 kids. Yeah, that was great. Really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Do you have any parts of the show that you weren't in a scene, but when you watched it, you really enjoyed the scene, or were like, oh man, I wish it could have been there, something like that?
Oh wow, everything that I wasn't in, because as I'm sure, Zoe, like the bigger the production, the less you get to know. They want to keep everything locked down. So if you're an actor and you're in this scene right here, you don't get to know anything else except that scene right there. And then you probably have to hand your sides back to someone at the end of the day because they just don't want any risk of anything getting out, which I fully understand from a production standpoint. From an acting standpoint, that can be really tough because if you're, Vane doesn't know anything more than he knows in any given situation. But as an actor, I'm also an editor and I shoot. So I like to know the arc of a thing, whether it's a scene or the whole story or the character within the story, because then it gives me an opportunity to kind of like add more, do something that will pay off later, right? Like when SM punches Vane and he flies and then he catches up later, they didn't use it in the edit because they did a really good timing cut off of Ravi, his character going, the brig, what's a brig? And then they cut right there. But if they hadn't cut right there, we all kind of walk in on the kids. And in fact, if you look at that episode when he's sitting on the ground looking at SM and he says, brig, what's a brig? Right before they cut, you can see in the bottom, I think left corner of the screen, a boot starts walking up. So that's my boot. And I start walking up, and because SM's on the ground, the scene that we'd shot must have been a day or two prior was when he punched me. So now he's dead on the ground, and I just decided to like give him a little kick, like, So anything we can do to connect stuff that we've already done or make something pay off later is great. We just don't always get that opportunity because everything's held on too tightly.
Yeah. Were you watching the show, and was there anything that like really surprised you and like about the show or any of the scenes that like you had no idea about going into this, like watching it?
I think just everything that didn't involve us pirates, like as a fan watching it, I was thrilled to see how deftly written it was, how they paid homage to the 80s stuff. They made the kids seem really kind of real, how they interacted with each other, and were like vying for power before they could really decide that they could all work together. The kind of looming adult mystery that started showing itself right there in episode 1 with like the security droids with the one eye that kind of watching everything, and like there was something really wrong with that Atten, and you just didn't know it for a while because we were kind of in the kids' perspective initially. So I liked watching that mystery unfold, and like the show as a whole, I really wish that and hope that still, word of mouth is going to spread and that more people will get to watch it, because it's a delightful show and it's really smart, and it's got a good heart. And I think that if you want to if you want to go back to Papa Lucas, I think that having a sense of hope and a good heart is really kind of key to the storytelling enjoyment in his universe.
Yeah. Were there any particular moments of the show that, scenes that you were or were not in that really stuck out to you while watching it, in that sense of hope and wonder?
Well, certainly I think every time Wim stepped up, he got knocked down a couple times, but then he kept like stepping back up, and his growth through the whole thing, until at the end, he finally like gets his tough face on and ignites that saber the right direction the second time. That was a good, powerful moment, because then, his friend is at his new friend, who was his frenemy, is now at his side, and they're facing off against this adult who they hoped they could trust, found that they couldn't, and then kind of, stood up against. Which I think, if you're reading his expressions like I was, I think John had some respect for. He was harsh with them because he's got also very little people skills, but I think he respected them. Even though they were thwarting his efforts, I think he kind of liked to see them toughen up a bit, come together, and like be strong. It was a good change.
Do you think there's a world out there where maybe Vane went on the adventure with the kids and how he might have treated them differently?
That was funny.
The same of Jod?
Before we ever started shooting this, of course, my mind goes 100 miles an hour, wondering like, well, initially I didn't even know what it was going to be. The show called Skeleton Crew. I just heard that pirates were going to be on the next show, and that Vane was going to go there. So I was immediately thinking like, well, what else? What are they doing? Like, what other shows are happening? And I thought maybe it was Ahsoka, and I was like, well, what are pirates going to be doing with Ahsoka? Did they like? Does Ahsoka align with them? Are they off on an adventure? I couldn't figure it out. And then when I found out it was going to be Skeleton Crew that involved these kids, then I was like, oh man, because like I love kids. I've been an uncle forever, times a bunch. I was an elementary education major. Like kids and dogs. If I speak a language well, it's kids and dogs. So I was thinking how much fun it would be to kind of be like, if there are kids on the pirate ship and we're off traveling around, how fun it would be to just be completely like boggled and frustrated by these kids, kind of like Jude's character got to do, but just kind of spread out amongst us pirates.
Yeah.
So if I had my druthers, it'd be like another season where maybe the kids and the pirates have to come together for some reason, and it's just maddening for these poor pirates.
Yeah, probably equally maddening for the kids sometimes.
Yeah,
too.
I would imagine so. I mean, I was playing Vane like he was a kid. I don't think he, that you don't go into piracy and not excel if you're very mature. Jod rose up because he's smart. I think a lot of us pirates are just there because at some point in our young life we're like, I don't know what to do, so piracy. So I was definitely playing him a bit kind of petulant and impatient, and at one point, in fact, when we're in that Port Borgo thing, and Ryan shoots the ceiling as we were all coming up and kind of stops us, and I'm looking up to see where she shot, and then I steal the gun from her. One of the takes, I was just trying different stuff every time. I'd snatch the gun, I'd make a face at her. At one point, I was like, trying to like out surly teen her. And yeah, I think, again, to your question of like, if Vane shows up again, just going to lean even harder into that. He's just a emotionally volatile man-child pirate baby.
Yeah, and so in our in our Vane spin-off, whether it's a coffee shop or whatever else he's doing, what kind of arc do you think he could have, and like what could lead to some change for him?
Good question. I think it would be nice. I like any character that can actually change, that there's something to the classic arcs, that they're classic for a reason, and it's good to see someone go through something that will affect some change in his life. So he's already kind of on this track of selfishness, doesn't work well with others. So regardless of who he runs into or what the catalyst is, it would be nice to see him maybe realize that self-serving piracy is not the best way to live your life, and that maybe spending a little time getting to know someone else might benefit him. He might even find a buddy somewhere.
Yeah.
Girlfriend,
yeah, kind of.
Boyfriend, lizard friend. I mean, some friend. He's got to find a friend out there somewhere.
Rock friend, dog friend.
Coming to terms with a puppy. There we go. That would make me happy and Vane.
That kind of leads a little bit into another question I have, which is because you mentioned whether you jump in Ahsoka and what else, what pirates could be. Right. If you have full control, if Vane could meet any other Star Wars character, who would it be, and how do you think that would go between those two?
Well, when I was originally imagining, parallel timelines, I thought, oh, well, Shin is out there doing something on that planet kind of by herself. I'm like, that would be pretty hilarious, because I'm with the Vane boots. I'm probably 6'6" or 6'7". I think she's quite short. Just the height disparity alone would be kind of funny, I think, for me.
Yeah.
And he's probably never dealt with someone who is so smart and young and feminine. I mean, there's all sorts of opportunities for bizarre, hilarious conflict with that. I mean, if she decided to run the coffee shop with him, there fights over that. But if it's anyone, I mean, I just got booked to go to Power of the Force convention, and I noticed that they put Vane's face up on their Instagram website right next to Denise Goff, who plays Ded Ramiro on Andor. Love that character, love that show, love her as an actor. She's a powerful actor. And I'm just thrilled that Dorky Vane is right next to that character. So that made me start thinking, like, oh man, what if somehow Vane ran into those guys? I don't know. I can't remember timeline. I think it doesn't work, but your question. So I'm going to run with it. Running up against Ded Ramiro, who, straight-laced ISB officer, regimented, doing everything perfect because she is climbing this ladder of men, and by golly, she's never going to slip up, right? She's got to keep everything together. You've seen how Vane dresses. He's a little loosey goosey. He's a little out there. He's like, whatever happens, I'll go this way. Oh no, I'm gonna go that way. Pew, pew, pew. So that's now my I think dream pairing is see what he would do.
A lot of fun conflict potential there, for sure.
I'm banking on the humorous aspects, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, well, that's really fun. So thank you so much for your time. Before you go, I wanted to tell you something, which I don't know if you remember, but we've met before in person at a convention.
Yes. Which con
in
was
Pennsylvania. I believe it was in Harrisburg. It might have been like a brick fest or something, or there were a lot of Legos there.
No, I wish I would remember that. It was Pennsylvania. That was a Contropolis.
It was like,
were you dressed as the Ahsoka character? Not Ahsoka, but
I was not dressed, but I remember because right near you was also Katie O'Brien, who plays Elijah Shane in Mandalorian, and then Lauren
Kim. Lauren Mary Kim was there.
Lauren Mary Kim. There was three of you guys.
Chris Bartlett was a little farther down.
Chris Bartlett. Because it was me and my dad and my sister. Yes, you guys were all building Lego. That's what it was. I thought it was first. You were all building Lego because I remember you were building a set. Yep. And then we were talking to you guys, and when you finished the set, you signed it for me and you gave it to me.
Oh, great!
So I
that I forgot.
I don't have it here in California. It's back in my home in Pennsylvania.
Good.
Because I just moved over this past spring. But I I thought
Oh, I
that was
love
a
that.
fun
No, I remembered
connection.
meeting you, but I didn't remember that Lego went to you. That's awesome.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So I have it. So I have my little display case. It's signed. I have the box, and I have the ship and vein in there, and it's signed.
good.
by you.
Sorry, I built it. I mean, I took half the joy. Did you tear it apart and rebuild it?
I did not rebuild it. It's still as it was.
Pristine first build.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's
I thought that
funny.
was a fun
Yeah,
connection.
I found that when I got there because I thought I was just going to be bored. I didn't know if anyone was going to want to come and visit the guy inside Vane. So I thought I'd keep myself entertained. And
And
that
that was
first
before
day,
Skeleton Crew, yeah.
yeah, it was
Too.
well before. Yeah, I was just doing that, and I think Chris is a Lego guy. He's like, "Ooh, where'd you get that?" And then a couple of the other people were looking at me like, "Why are you doing that?" And then by the time was it like Saturday or the next day?
Yeah, it was like I think it was like the
everyone.
last day of the con, yeah.
Everyone. I got everybody started. I got a couple of little kits, spread them down the line. I have a picture of everybody building Lego. I was very chuffed at my accomplishment, swaying them over.
It's a fun, great way to pass the time.
Yeah, it's a good
But
brain game. What about you? I need to hear how you like the show. Are you all caught up? Did I spoil
for
anything?
Skeleton Crew, oh no, you didn't spoil anything. I loved Skeleton Crew. I think it was one of my favorite. I think it might be one of my favorite Star Wars shows. I just enjoyed, like, you're talking about that fun and that hope and that kind of whimsical. It was very the Goonies, and I love the Goonies.
Yeah.
And each of the kids, were their own characters, and there's such care into them and their relationships. And I love Neil, of course. I love Neil. And I enjoyed the show a lot, and I hope to see, if not a season 2, some future for those characters and everybody, and of course for Bane as well. Whether that's in more Mandalorian or wherever else he can pop up. He has a very open future.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but thank you so much for your time. This was so much fun. Is there anywhere people should follow you, find you, watch you in something coming out?
The industry is still kind of upside down, so there's nothing really showing up. I keep up with stuff and friends on Instagram right now under my name, just Marti Matulis, and then I will not say I'm a regular poster by any means, but I've got a YouTube channel also under my name that I'm occasionally throwing things out. In fact, I did a Lego build of the Onyx Cinder right over there.
That was a cool set.
I bought the set and I was like, well, the show's coming up. I need to do something. So I filmed myself building that. And then, of course, I have Vane like in the very last part, kind of like, oh, why is he there? It was very dramatic. You can watch that. Have a giggle.
Yeah, very
cool. But that's it. Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Everyone definitely check that out for Star Wars Geek Girl. We have the StarWarsGeekGirl.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky at SW Geek Girl, and the Facebook page, Star Wars Geek Girl. But thank you so much for everybody listening. Thank you again, Marti, for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. May the Force be with you, everybody, and goodbye.
Bye.